Rumpelstiltskin, The Secret of the Golden Straw. Once upon a time, in a distant land filled with rolling hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a poor miller who owned nothing but his small water mill and a beloved daughter. Times were hard, and one year the miller found himself unable to pay his taxes to the greedy king who ruled the land with a cold heart. Fearing imprisonment, the desperate miller came up with a wild lie in an attempt to save himself. "Your Majesty," he pleaded, bowing deeply before the throne, "please forgive my debts. My daughter has a rare gift. She can spin straw into gold." The king, intrigued and tempted by the thought of endless riches, narrowed his eyes and said, "If your daughter truly holds such a gift, bring her to the palace tonight. Prove her magic, and I shall pardon your debts." That very night, the miller's daughter was brought to the castle. She was led through winding halls until she stood before a vast room filled with hay from floor to ceiling. A single spinning wheel stood in the center. The king's voice was stern. "If, by dawn, all this straw is not turned to gold, both you and your father will be punished." With that, he locked the heavy door behind him. The poor girl sat alone in the cold room, her hands trembling. She had never spun straw, let alone turned it into gold. Despair filled her chest like a storm cloud. Tears welled in her eyes and soon rolled down her cheeks. Then suddenly, creak! The door slowly opened. In stepped a tiny man, no taller than a chair, with sharp eyes and a curious smile. "Why are you crying, my dear?" he asked, with a voice like tinkling bells. "The king expects me to spin this straw into gold, but I have no idea how," she sobbed. He stepped closer and said, "Perhaps I can help, but nothing comes free. What will you give me in return?" She quickly removed the necklace from her neck. "My mother's necklace. It's all I have." The strange little man took it, nodded, and sat at the spinning wheel. His hands moved like magic. The wheel spun faster and faster as the straw vanished, and shimmering gold thread appeared in its place. By sunrise, every bundle of straw had turned into glittering gold. The king was speechless. But greed has no end. The next night, he led the girl to a larger room, filled with even more straw. "Do it again," he demanded, "and I might consider making you my queen." Once again, the tiny man appeared. "What will you give me tonight?" he asked with a sly grin. Tears in her eyes, the girl offered him a golden ring that had belonged to her grandmother. The man accepted and once again worked his magic. By morning, the room was filled with gold. The third night came, and the king, still not satisfied, brought her to the grandest room yet, filled with mountains of straw. "If you succeed tonight," he declared, "you shall become my queen." When the little man returned, the girl cried, "I have nothing left to give you." The man looked at her with a spark in his eye and said, "Then promise me your firstborn child." The girl froze. A child? But she had no choice. To save her life and her father's, she agreed. And once again, by dawn, the straw had become gold. True to his word, the king married her. The miller's daughter became a queen. A year passed, and a beautiful baby girl was born. The kingdom rejoiced. But one quiet evening, as the baby slept in her cradle, a cold wind blew through the chamber, and the tiny man appeared once more. "It's time," he whispered. "I've come for what you promised." The queen's heart broke. "Please," she begged, falling to her knees, "take anything you want, all the jewels in the palace, just not my child." The man thought for a moment, then spoke. "Very well, I'll give you 3 days. If in that time you can guess my name, you may keep your baby." For 2 days, the queen guessed every name she had ever heard: Marcus, Tobias, Alric. But the man only shook his head. Desperate, she sent her guards across the kingdom to search far and wide. On the 3rd day, Just before sunset, one of the queen's messengers returned, out of breath. "Your Majesty, deep in the forest, I saw a strange little man dancing by a fire singing, 'Tomorrow I brew, today I bake, soon the queen's child I will take. She'll never win, oh what a sin, for no one knows I'm Rumpelstiltskin.'" That evening, when the tiny man appeared, he looked smug. "So, my queen," he said, "have you learned my name?" She smiled gently. "Is it Rupert?" "No." "Is it Balthazar?" "Wrong again." She leaned forward and whispered, "Could it be Rumpelstiltskin?" The little man gasped. His eyes widened in disbelief. "No! That's impossible!" With a furious scream, he stomped the ground and vanished in a swirl of smoke. He was never seen again. And so, the queen held her daughter tight, tears of joy streaming down her face. The king, the queen, and their precious child lived happily ever after, their hearts full and their days golden, not because of riches, but because of love. Moral of the story: do not let greed cloud your heart, for the truest treasure is always love.